Hello everybody, Ethan here. Horror is probably the first thing that drew me to Warhammer 40k. The grim darkness of the universe calling out to me at the time, probably around 18, 19 years old, just looking for anything that would scare me. And when I started diving more into 40k, I saw how hopeless the setting is, from ravagings by Xenos races, to the damnation of chaos, to the corruption of the Imperium. It created just the perfection that is grimdark, the genre of fiction that I love the most. But when it comes to horror in this setting, I can't really think of any that really top a short narrative piece called The Watcher in the Rain. Now, before I get into this is going to be a very brief overview. There are people who have done full deep dives of this story. I also recommend actually listening to it. It is phenomenal. I enjoyed the entire thing. It clocks in at, I want to say, a little bit under an hour and a half, and it's just like, it's a little subsection of like media. It feels almost like those old radio horror broadcasts. And honestly, I love it. But with that, this is your final warning, as I will be spoiling the story. But please take the time to go watch it, listen to it, or whatever you can do. There have been several people who've done deep dives, as I said, and you're welcome to do that before this, just because I'm going to be talking more about the horror of it at the end of this brief explanation. Set on the planet K4, The Watcher in the Rain follows our titular characters, being Inquisitor Crucius and a lone scribe named Greta. Greta is living underneath an alias at the start of the story, and it's okay. So it might be a little bit weird, but she is obviously running from something. The scribe that she is walking with, she actually gets off of her tail by just making him talk about himself, which is perfect. But she eventually finds herself in the reactor area of the Spire, and she gets confronted by a Serval Skull and Inquisitor Crucius. Crucius is a horrible person. This man is brutal through and through. Being an Inquisitor an Inquisitor's interrogator rather, is not a glamorous job. And you have to be willing to do awful things to get the information you need out of people, be it an actual confession or a fabricated one, just to stop pain. The story then follows them as they're trying to make their way to some form of transport. They have a lot back and forth where he is fully convinced that she is guilty, and she is telling him very forthright that, he's wrong. She's not anything. It was a simple clerical error that led to thousands dying. But as the story goes on, they make their way first to the archives where she works, and then as the rains fall in from the warp storm and the Watcher that has been following them the entire time slowly waning on the interrogator, to the point of he even accuses her of it being one of her compatriots in this whole scheme he has in his head. They both fall into the lower asylum that is left for scribes who have gone insane from doing their work for so long. And as they go through it, they run into more scribes. This is probably my favorite part, is just the asylum scene. The ending's really good. The asylum is horrifying. It's an asylum in 40k, and they run across, I don't remember his name or not, but one of the leaders down there, and he talks about processing somebody who wanted to leave early when they ask, and he proceeds to show them how he cataloged every organ from her body, and they threaten to do that to him. Meanwhile, the Watcher, or something in relation to it that they're a part of, causes Crucius to freeze, and this is where his backstory of, as he's being trained to interrogate, he captures a head of a crime group, and the gang members that were protecting her destroyed his interrogation gear. So he used whatever he had on hand to get the answer out of her, only for it to be revealed that it was his mother. And this is a very dark shadow that's kept over him. And this is a breaking point for him. They manage to escape after Greta takes his lasgun, shoots a window, causing the entire floor to flood, and as they dart through a door, closing it behind them, killing everybody in the asylum. They eventually find their way to the docks, and they make their way off a planet. And the entire time, Crucius is being fully tormented by the Watcher. And they manage to almost crash a few times, but manage to get into orbit. And it's from there that he sees and hears his mother behind the door. And he goes to open it, but Greta shoots him, bringing him to his senses. but she keeps shooting him. And he said that he understood. Had he been in the same situation, he would do what she did. And he records a report to his Inquisitor master that she is innocent. This is where the twist of the story, the first one at least, kicks in. She ends up killing him, but not before telling him that she meant to do it. The first time that she misfiled was an accident, but since then she became emboldened. She loved it. She loved the feeling. She is a serial killer. She's a psychopath in this universe, and this is revealed as Crucius dies. But I like to think that Crucius dies with forgiveness, if that makes sense, as he accepted the Watcher, where Greta wouldn't. He realized that he was a horrible person, that the Inquisition made him a monster. But Greta never would take that moment to reflect. It is shortly after this that Greta is hailed by an Imperial Guard vessel, and it's revealed to be part of the group that she damaged by not having the proper supplies delivered to them, as they have turned into cannibals, discussing how they were going to be executed, but they need to make it to the next port. The captain orders the person working in the kitchen, I want to say, to bring them aboard, but make sure to hide the bodies from everybody else. So it's revealed at the end that Greta meets her end at the hands of the people she meant to harm. And it's poetic. The real horror in this is not the Watcher. The Watcher is just a presence that reflects the true nature of the person back. It's almost judgment embodied. The real horror is the fact of the interrogator was right the whole time. She was a monster, but he saw the good in her because she was actively trying to help him throughout most of the story, only revealing at the end that she meant to kill him, to escape, to start again, to kill again. But she met her end poetically at the hands of those who she tried to kill. Now, horror in 40K is very weird, as I believe horror will be drawn more from the actions of the few humans who are in power. Horror at its core is my personal favorite genre. I used to do predominantly horror content on YouTube, and I still do periodically on TikTok. But the horror in this is not the Watcher. The horror in this is never meant to be the Watcher. The Watcher is more of a, they wanted something that they're running from without realizing that the monster was within their ranks the entire time. The closest this comes to true horror is The Asylum, but it's not true horror. This very psychological, slow burn horror. There is moments of action, like in The Asylum and some moments in the street, but it is a slow burn audio drama, and it captures the horror of 40K perfectly. I wish that more people would do stuff involving horror just outside of chaos, outside of Xenos races. I want to see the horrors of living, in the Imperium itself, because it's a horrid, squalid existence, having to fear from the PDF, having to fear from the Inquisitors, having to fear from gangs, just the average toil of your average person, the horrors that they face, the monsters that are the people next to them. And I believe that's what makes horror in 40K much more impactful. But anyway, let me know what you think. This is probably one of my favorite stories. I didn't want to spoil too much. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Like this video if you like, subscribe down below as it helps a lot with visibility, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.